Lane in Williams Township, and I'm speaking on behalf of a small group of residents and other concerned people who have joined us here today about the incident that took place on March 12th at the Chrin landfill. It's known as a landslide, and the reason for that is the root cause or trigger event of what happened on March 12th is not known at this time. So it's being referred to as a landslide. Right now, the investigation into the root cause and discussion of the possibility of a sinkhole has not been brought front and center. And as a result, after this happened, myself and another resident in the township, Jennifer Petrozzo, contacted former Secretary of the Pennsylvania DEP, John Hanger. John is currently a candidate for governor of our state. We had worked with John previously in his role as DEP secretary. In fact, he might not like me saying this, but he was the only person of dozens whom we contacted at our state level who responded to us about our concerns of the Chrin landfill. He took a keen eye on the data that we brought him that was from the DEP, and he took a very objective approach to looking at that, meeting with us and listening to our concerns. At that time, one of our concerns was the geology that is under the landfill. And now we have this incident. Unfortunately, when John had commissioned a look into the geology of the DEP and the DCNR, our current governor took office and there was a changing of DEP secretaries, and the follow-through on John's direction was not completed. So right now we have an issue as residents, and before I turn it over to John, I wanted to briefly share what our concerns are. When we brought up at the March 13th township meeting, the day after the incident occurred, Chrin's engineer made an emphatic statement that they had no idea what the root cause was, and therefore they did not want to speculate because that would be improper less than 24 hours after the incident. I could not agree more. However, when asked if there were issues related to the potential of a sinkhole, this same engineer stated equally as emphatically that there was no way this had any relation to the geology. That doesn't make sense to many of us here today. We're seeking for an unbiased look at what is going on. We're concerned about the other 98 acres of this landfill. We feel that we have spoken out about this time and time again and have not received the attention that this deserves. Our township right now, we believe, is probably doing their best, but there doesn't appear to be a detailed project plan from the township's perspective on how this is being dealt with. The DEP has issued a memo which is directed to landfill VP Greg Chrin. It's in your press packages. That memo basically says to the landfill, here are 10 points we want you to follow, and when you're done, get back to us, and we're going to be checking on status with you periodically. It leaves the investigation solely to the landfill operator, who has a poor history of self-monitoring. They have odor problems, they have air quality issues in terms of gas capture, collection, and destruction, and repeatedly this has been left by the wayside for them to self-report, which they're not doing. We have a couple of requests. Actually, we'd like to call them demands as concerned residents for public health and safety. We believe that the township's independent engineer should be able to attend all meetings on this matter. We also believe that the garbage in the affected areas needs to be removed down to the liner, and a thorough inspection done at that time by EPA, DEP, the township's independent engineer, and any others deemed appropriate. It should not be left to the northeast region of the DEP and Chrin alone to monitor this. The EPA needs to be involved because the Superfund site is affected. The collection of water samples at the monitoring wells need to be witnessed by an unbiased party and sent to an independent laboratory for analysis. A chain of custody needs to be maintained. In addition, the leachate levels should be measured immediately and determine the concentration levels, as this, as well as the results of the monitoring of the wells, will be important in ascertaining the root cause of the trigger event. We also believe that the air monitoring results from the DEP's mobile air unit need to be sent to and evaluated by DEP's Air Toxic Division in Harrisburg. We need expert evaluation, not through the DEP's Northeast Region Waste Organization. We also believe that the township needs to be given daily reports of these daily surface methane monitoring results. And finally, we believe that from the township's perspective, they need to be putting information on the website that does not come from and written by Chrin. While this information may be interesting to some, we need unbiased, independent information, not authored by the company that is most benefited by finding out that this is just simply the result of a couple inches of rain. Now at this point, I'd like to turn this over to John Hanger, candidate for governor, former secretary of the DEP and steward of our environment. Thank you, John.
Thank you very much for inviting me to participate in this event. I've over the years worked with literally hundreds of community organizations and probably tens of thousands of individuals. And I can tell you that Kathy and Jennifer and the others that are working with Kathy and Jennifer are amongst the top 5 community groups and individuals I've ever seen. I say that because they take information very seriously. They take gathering real facts very seriously. And when I've had the privilege of being in public office twice, once as a commissioner of the Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission from 1993 to 1998. Governor Casey appointed me to the commission at that time. And then as the secretary of DEP with Governor Rendell from September 2008 to January 2011. And certainly when I serve in public office, I think the thing that every public official frankly owes to people who pay their salaries, and let's remember that's what you all are doing, is to at least listen respectfully and seriously to literally anybody who wants to meet with you. And I have done that over the years, and truthfully sometimes you're not very impressed by what folks are bringing forward. But on more than a few occasions, people have very real and good points to make. And then in some exceptional circumstances or occasions, you run across somebody like Kathy and Jennifer who really have marshaled some important facts. And I'm here first to back up their credibility. That's the first thing I want to do today, is to back up their credibility and back up the seriousness of the questions and points that all of you are making here. You all need not only to be listened to, but you need independent answers to the questions and points that you are making. I think it's also important to look at the history of the landfill, and there's been problems with this landfill as we try to assess what's going on here. When I was secretary, I approved a large fine because of the problems at this landfill, approximately $180,000, $190,000 fine because of the problems at this landfill. That's a big fine at DEP. That we do know that this landfill has had some problems in the past. And I also think that what has happened here recently, and you've got pictures of it, is a significant event. It's serious, and I personally think the root cause does need to be identified. Apparently, everybody agrees with that, but it needs to be identified through an independent investigation, not by Chrin themselves. I'm glad that the EPA is involved. I listened to the 4 demands that Kathy read. I support every one of the 4 demands that Kathy announced here at this event. And the EPA, I believe, has a very important role to play in this investigation because of the Superfund, and frankly, because until we can rule out something like a sinkhole, there is a real potential here for an enormously serious event right here in Williams Township at this landfill. And right today, nobody can rule out anything because nobody can rule in what the cause was. Until we absolutely know what caused that collapse, or quote-unquote landslide, then we have a responsibility to get to the bottom, quite literally, the bottom of this landfill. We'll see what's going on at the bottom of this landfill. Because until that's done, at least I don't know how you can be sure what is occurring there. And I also think it's time to step back and take a fresh look at the geology under this landfill.
Yes, yes.
And that can be part of the independent investigation. I did spend quite a bit of time looking through the records, many of which were quite old, there's a lot has happened over the years. But at this point, there's very good reason to take a fresh look at what that geology is. There can be, again, important fact-gathering done right now so that we can be assured of what the real geologic characteristics are under this landfill. And I think everybody here wants the truth. That's what I want.
Yep.
I want the truth. And you know, that is what we're going to insist on getting at this landfill. So I'm delighted to be with you today. I think you are an example of citizen advocacy organization at its very best, and I will stand with you to make sure at least that you get the answers that you deserve. The last point I would say is this absolutely has to be transparent, and what Kathy was talking about was making sure information is available in real time to the public, that it be properly gathered, be independently assessed, and made available to everybody to take a look at. I don't know how anybody can argue against that. And if you're interested in the truth, you would support everything that Kathy said, those four demands. If you're interested in the truth, and getting to the truth and getting to the bottom of this issue and the bottom of this landfill, to know really what's going on, you would support those four points. So again, I'm glad to be with you, and I hope my presence here and my attention to this issue, which will continue after today, is helpful to all of you. Thank you very much.
Ever since I moved here in 1986. And Mr. Tomeko has been responsible for this landfill probably for 20 years. And so when you have a bureaucracy built and you get familiarity like that, sometimes you don't look as hard as you should look at some of the things.
Look, I think you're making really good points.
Well, the concern is, why wouldn't the state put something in place where you transfer people every couple of years or something like that, so that does not happen?
Yeah, well, that may be a good management strategy. But let me speak more to some of the specifics that you're talking about. Everybody involved in this situation, from the landfill operator to DEP to you, has to be focused on the truth. And it's also the case that we also know that there's some real interests involved here. Obviously, there's a tremendous investment at risk for the landfill operator. I don't blame the landfill operator for doing what it needs to do, consistent with not lying and cheating and breaking the law, to look after its interests. I think in the case of DEP, there's been a lot of decisions made over the years, and DEP has a responsibility at this point not to defend the past. The DEP has a complete responsibility to make sure that it's a fresh look. And very frankly, that's why you need a governor and a secretary committed to making sure the bureaucracy doesn't simply defend the past. We're all human beings, and once you make up your mind about something, it's not always real easy to change your mind. I'm sure you can all understand that. It's a very human part of psychology, basic behavior. So I do have that concern, and certainly if I was leading DEP today or as the governor, I'd be making sure that this isn't about defending the past. This is about understanding what's going on right now. That's why I've called for a fresh, independent look at the geology. Let's stop arguing about what the test showed back years ago. Let's take a fresh, independent look and make a fresh judgment about what we know today. Maybe things even changed over a period of time. It's kind of unlikely, but you know, it's possible, I suppose. So let's have a fresh, independent look, and everybody ought to be doing that.
Well, if you have any stroke with Harrisburg, we'd very much appreciate it if somebody in Harrisburg would pay us our $30,000 back.
Well, I'm trying to get a lot of stroke with Harrisburg by running for governor.
Good luck.
You know, right now, you know, I don't think Governor Corbett's going to be calling my cell phone. Obviously, this is thank goodness, a democracy. And yeah, there's an election, yes, but before the election, there are processes to go through. And Williams Township is doing a good job in looking after the residents of Williams Township, even though this is not, in my view, at all just the responsibility of Williams Township. I think it's also very important for these reasons to have the EPA involved in this.
Yes.
EPA is a different organization and has different political leaders, and I think that's healthy, very frankly. So having the EPA involved in this is important, and I call on the EPA to put the resources necessary into making sure that their involvement is adequate to the task. They do need to really make sure this is a priority. They've got a lot to do. It's back to the gentleman's question about resources, and the EPA has challenges, and they have to, frankly, target resources and make decisions about what they work on and what they cannot work on. This, to me, should be a top priority for EPA, and they ought to get in here and make sure that.
So anything you can do to help our little township here would be greatly appreciated.
I'm here today, and I certainly have a little more sway with perhaps people around at EPA than I do right now with the folks in Harrisburg. I'm glad to do that, and I think you being active is absolutely critical to making sure that real answers are found to this issue. If you weren't here today, frankly, the problem would still exist, but we'd be much less likely to be getting real answers. So it's your activism, it's your work that is making us more likely to get real answers. So you all are doing a really important job, and I want to thank you. And maybe one more question.
Is it realistic to continue to operate the dump with the unknown facts that we have right now?
No, I've called for today. I put out a statement today that this should no longer be taking garbage. This landfill needs we need answers to the questions asked before we put more tons of garbage into this situation.
Yes.